Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Genealogy Garage. I'm Julie Huffman, the genealogy librarian at Los Angeles Public Library. And Genealogy Garage is our monthly program in which we feature and present different topics related to the world of genealogy. We're co-sponsored by the Southern California Genealogical Society and the Genealogical Society of Hispanic America, the Southern California chapter. Genealogy Garage typically happens the third Saturday of every month, except for August and December. Next month, we have our friend John Schmall with us, who's going to talk to us about German genealogy. So if you have any friends who are interested in German genealogy, or if you are, tune in third Saturday in June. If there's anything else you've been interested to learn about, just shoot me an email. Right here is my email address. Okay, let me get this. Oh my gosh, my big finger. Okay, there you go. So if you want to join my email list, send me an email. If you want to tell me about something you're interested in learning, send me an email. That's how we came up with the subject for today's presentation. One of you out there was interested in learning all the ins and outs of the FamilySearch.org website. For today's section, you're going to see a link to the handout written in the description on the YouTube page. You might have to click that show more wording. It's not a button, but it says show more right under the description of this event, and it will show you a link to a Google document that is today's handout. If anything goes awry for you, just send me an email and I will send you the handout via email after the event. This session is being recorded and is going to be available to watch after the fact. We have to get it closed captioned, but then it will be right up where you see it now in our LAPL YouTube page. So don't worry about taking too many notes. This is going to be an information-packed session, but just remember you can go back and watch it. You can pause, write notes, and try stuff out. So don't worry, you'll be able to watch it after the fact. Please type any questions as you think of them into the YouTube chat box. I will ask Lauren, our presenter, at the very end of her presentation, your questions, and sometimes she might stop her or pause her presentation to see if any of you have questions. If that's the case, just go ahead and type it in the chat box, and then I will be the voice of your question and ask her. Now, last month, I had the supreme pleasure of taking a busman's holiday to Salt Lake City. I rented a little apartment that was just about a 10-minute walk to the Family History Library. And I have to tell you, I was in hog heaven. That library is so gorgeous and technologically advanced, and the resources, I mean, I really recommend it to any of you who, even if you're just starting genealogy, take a trip to Salt Lake City and go to that gorgeous, gorgeous library. And I did break down a wall, by the way, on some German side. So that was really awesome. And the people there are super nice and helpful. And today we are privileged, one moment, to have with us one of those nice and helpful people. Welcome, Lauren Wake. It's so nice to have you here today.
I am so excited to be here, especially with that introduction.
Yes, well, I wowed the troops.
Thank you.
Okay, so now you are one of your title is research specialist, is that right?
Yes, it is. So at the library, we have teams of professional genealogists that we're called research specialists, and we all have particular skill sets. Mine is Latin America and Southern Europe. And so when guests come to the library or when they contact us through one of our online services, we provide free research guidance. And I've been doing
Fantastic.
that for about 4 years, and it's the best job in the world.
All right, that's great. Well, let's get started because I understand you've got a lot to tell us today.
Yes. So, major disclaimer for anyone who's watching, especially people who aren't familiar with FamilySearch.org. This presentation is going to feel like you are being hit by gale force winds. And so, especially if this is all new to you, remember there will be a recording. There is a handout that goes through every single one of these activities with more detail so you can practice on your own. But just sort of sit back and take what you can. For those of you that are very, very familiar with the website, this may just be a review, but we are going to go together through all the different ways you can find people on the website familysearch.org. So, um, our objective of this, actually, we're not going to find an individual in the tree, but we are going to work on being able to find people in index records and locating and browsing images in our digital collection. And I did want to mention there are a couple different ways to access FamilySearch.org. One of the most common ways is through our application, which can be found in any of the stores online. Uh, and we actually have two separate apps for, technically we have three because another one does indexing, but our two most important ones are the white circle with the tree on it, which is our family tree app, which is the one that I recommend downloading for doing the searches that I'm going to describe. And if you're really interested in sort of sharing photos and documents, then the Memories app would be a good substitute for you. Both those apps are the way to get onto the website from a phone or a tablet with a little bit of ease. Now, when we're talking about the apps are limited. On either our Family Tree app or our Memories app, you can access our public tree. You can access the Memories section, which are those photos and documents on either one of them. But when we turn to records, which is the subject of this presentation, you can get indexed records either on the app or on our website, as well as our historical record collections. But if you want to look through our catalog, through our digital image collection, or at our research wiki, you have to close out of the app, open a browser window, and go to familysearch.org to get those. Now I'm going to describe each of those different things in turn. And so the focus of today's presentation, as I mentioned before, is on our digital collection, specifically everything that can be found under the search menu on familysearch.org. You can see a screenshot of it there on the top, and that includes records, images, family tree, genealogies, catalogs, books, and our wiki. We are going to focus on getting records. I'm going to brush on the other four at the end of the presentation, but we really want to focus on being able to find our ancestors in the records that they would have signed or even created themselves. And those can be found under records, images, and catalog. So let's talk about the first section, which is our indexed records. When I say indexed records, what I mean is records where you can type in information about an ancestor and then view a list of corresponding information. Now, if you happen to have a tree on Family Search, Family Search will automatically run searches of our index records for the different people on their tree, and they display as record hints, these little blue icons. For example, in this case, they found three records for Carmen, a birth index for her marriage, and the birth of a child. How you get to indexed records on the app is by clicking the three dashes. On the left, we have an Apple phone, and the three dashes are on the bottom right of the screen. For any other type of software, the three dashes are on the top left of the screen. I don't know why Apple was so unique, but they're sort of the opposite of everyone else. But you click on those three dashes and you get a menu, and from the menu, you press on Search Historical Records. If you're on our website, you click on Search, and if you just click it once, it will automatically bring you to this page. But if the menu pops up, you can click the first option, Records, which will bring you here. Now, the first tip that I want to give you is when you go to this search page, the very first thing you do is click on More Options, which will expand the search form from 3 lines to 4. And why I say that is because it gives you a lot more control over what you search for. And I'll explain that as I go. So let's zoom in on the search form. The first and most important bit of information is it asks, who are you searching for? And it gives you the option to add in a first and a last name separately. And also it can give you an alternate name. So for example, if you're searching for a woman who went by her husband's name after she married, you can type in her first name with her maiden name, press alternate name, and then type in her first name with her married name to see records from all different phases of her life with all different things. Same if she remarried, you could add in 2 or 3 alternate names to get all of that information from her. Scrolling down through the page, you can see the main reason why I tell you to press that more button is our generic search box is searching for any place and any year range. And this can be a little bit too wide of a search result. So for example, if I'm looking for Jane Doe who died in 1905 and I type in Jane Doe and then under any event I put in the year 1905, it would give me Jane Does who died in 1905, Jane Does who were born in 1905, Jane Does who got married at the age of 20 in 1905. It's a really wide net. But if instead of putting in that anything, I clicked on death, and then under death put in 1905, it'll only give me woman who died likely around that time, and it helps focus it on ancestors that are much more likely to be mine. And so you can do that with a birth date or place, a marriage date or place, a residence, or a death. And then as you keep going down, you can add in a family member. So always be aware if you're adding this that it does sort of limit your search results. If you add in a spouse, that will sort of make it focus on records created later in their life after they were married and their spouse would be included in a record. But you can also add in a person's father or a mother or anyone else who you want to see together in a record with them. And then my absolute favorite thing is restricting records. And my favorite one there is restricting records by location. I do a lot of research outside of the United States. And if I am trying to find Jose Garcia, I do not want to have to sort through millions of records and he's from Mexico. I don't want to search through millions of records from the United States, from Venezuela, from Argentina. I just want to see my man who I knew lived in Mexico his whole life. And so I could type in Jose Garcia, and then under location, I can type in Mexico, and I will only see records coming out of Mexico. The alternate to that would be when I put in his birthday, I could type in Mexico as the place, but I will still get records coming out of the United States and other countries. So when I use that restrict records by, I only get records out of the country and then the state or province that I type in. This last option, if you choose to toggle it, will make it so you'll only see results that exactly match the information you put in. My recommendation is to pretend that this button never exists and never use it. Correct spelling is very much a notion of our century. Our ancestors did not care how their names were spelled, and oftentimes they were not actually aware of how the people who were writing the records of their lives were spelling their names. To them, their name was something that was said, and however the clerk or the priest who was writing their birth or marriage or death or census record chose to write it down was their business. And so we want to be very open to different spellings of names. And so we want to sort of never limit ourselves by that show exact thing. So that's the search form. I'll give you a couple of tips for searching, and then we're going to go through a couple of examples. And my first tip is by start broad and then narrow. So don't start by putting in every single piece of information you know. Start by something like a name, a date, and a place, and then carry your search to the information you want. So if you want to find a marriage record, search with a marriage date. If you want to find a birth record, maybe search with a birth date and his parents' names. And always search in a variety of ways. Our database has millions and millions and millions of records, and it won't always prioritize the record you need. So if you do a basic search, okay, that's your first try. Try for about 5. So think, well, what other way can I search of all the different methods I'm going to teach you to try and find it? And my last suggestion is to sign into Family Search in order to optimize your results. It is completely free to get an account on Family Search. You will never be asked to pay for anything, but some of our collections have specific restrictions, and some of them are restricted to just Family Search users. And so if you do a search on Family Search without signing in, and then just by pressing that sign in button, you may bump up your search results by anything from none to several hundred results just based on these restrictions that we have on our collection. So always sign in, always search in a variety of ways, and start broad and then narrow. So one example of that is I'll usually start with a name, a date, and then restricting records by a specific place, but you could start as broad as a name. And so in this example, I am just searching for Jane Smith, adding no other information and clicking search. And this is my results page. On the right-hand side, I can see the information that I added in, and I can add additional information. It's that same search form from the beginning, just smushed to the side of my results. And I can always add in a birth date or a relative and then click search to update my results. As you can see, I have over 6 million results. And right now I'm only viewing the first 20. I can use that drop down to change it to 50 or 100. And I can use that option on the right to navigate from page 1 to any page number between 1 and 245. Across the top of my results, I have the option to filter. I'm going to show some of these filters later on, but collection allows me to say, oh, I want to look at birth records. I want to look at census records. It filters it in by types of collections. I can also filter by sex, race, and then once again, birth, marriage, death. Now, when I'm looking at my results, each individual row is a result. The first thing I want to point out is underneath the name, it's going to give you information about this collection. It is not telling you that Jane Smith was born in 1583 and died in 1991. It's saying that Jane Smith was found in a collection of death and burial records from England, and the very earliest record in that collection was in 1538, and the very latest record in that collection was in 1991. So first, don't let those dates throw you. It's talking about the records, not about the person. That next column is telling you what is happening. And so this is saying that Jane Smith was buried in 1843, and it gives us the place. And then it gives us a birth year, probably based on an age that was given. The next column will give you relationships if they are named. You can see none of the other results happen to name another person in the record, but this first one said that her spouse was Joseph Smith. And then clear on the end, you have some icons. That paper icon will allow you to open up a page that gives all of the indexed information. So if I click on that once, I'll see a cute little preview of it pop up on the right. And then if I click view record, I can see this, all of the index record about Jane Smith's burial record. So here in the middle, I can see the information, not a lot more than what I saw in my preview, but I can also save it to my computer or share it either through text or through email. I can view the original image by clicking check image availability on the right, or if it has a weird restriction, it might tell me to go to a center or go to a library that's affiliated with Family Search, like the Los Angeles County Library. And then, yeah, there's my sharing options. If I have a tree on Family Search, I can attach it to a tree. And then under similar records, in this case, I have nothing available, but a really cool feature Family Search does is it will take all of this information and run another search in our index record, this time specifically looking for a Jane Smith who died in 1843 in Birmingham. And in this case, when it ran that result, it didn't find something, but other times you can find a lot of results. Like in this example I'm about to show you of a very famous Los Angeles County resident, Walt Disney. So let's say I want to find information about Walt, and I specifically want to find records about him from when he was living in California. So I go to FamilySearch.org, I click search and records to get to my indexed record collection. And the first thing I do is I type in his name. So I type in the first name of Walt, because that was the name he went by. after clicking more options to see everything. And so I put in Walt, last name Disney, and I do want to make sure it's focused on him. So I'm going to put in a birth date. Now, Walt Disney was born in 1901. It's always a good idea, though, to put in a range of 1 to 2 years before and after a birth date. So in this case, I'm going to say I want any Walt Disney born between 1899 and 1903. And I'm going to leave birthplace blank. And then I'm going to scroll down. I could add in information like his wife, but for now I'm going to wait. And I'm going to say I only want to see records coming out of the United States. And specifically, I only want to see records coming out of California. And I click search. And I can see here that I have 438 results, which is a lot. I can scroll through them. When I get to the bottom of the page, I can see that option to go to my next page. Now, if I want to see more information about any of these things, I click on that line. I can see the preview pop up on the right where I can click on the image, I can copy a citation, and I can either click line by line by line, or after reviewing the information, I can use the arrows on my little preview tab to go from record to record to record. And you can see each record is turning from blue to purple on the right to show that I've already looked at it. Now let's say this is a lot of information. Let me try and really focus it on Walt. One thing I could do is add in a spouse just to make sure I have the right Walt Disney, the one who was married to Lillian. And I'm going to leave her last name blank so that I can get her either as Lillian Bounds or as Lillian Disney. And now I have 424 results, so it knocked off 10. But you can see all of them are results that name a spouse. So it focused it in on records that name spouses. And when I click on collection, I can then decide, oh, do I want to try and find a birth record? Do I want to try and find a census record or an immigration record? Let's say, yeah, let's try and look for Walt Disney in the 1940 census. So I'm going to filter by that collection, and my results go from 400 to 1. And when I click on that result, I see this preview of a Walt Disney born around the right time, living in the right place. So I click View Record, or I click on that little paper thing. It does the same thing. And I see this wonderful little summary of all this information. I can see it's already been attached to the tree, and there are a ton of similar records that Family Search have found, all of which are on the tree. I can see the people living in his household. And most importantly, when I click that image, I can zoom in and learn maybe some information that didn't get indexed. And so this is our image page. I'm going to minimize this, and I'll walk you through this page in depth in a minute. But first, let's just sort of look at what this information gives us. I can see Walt Disney with Lillian, his daughters, and some people that were working for them and living with them. As I keep reading through, I can find information about their ages, sexes, civil statuses, where they were born, where they were living 5 years ago, information about their education, and information about their employment. For example, Mr. Disney was a motion picture producer, owning his own business and making more than $5,000 a year. And so if I want to, I can download this image, I can print it, or I can't attach it to the tree because it's already attached. And so as a thing, I started very broad. I started with a search for just a Walt Disney, only records coming out of California with a birth range. I then narrowed it to records for Walt Disney where his wife Lillian is mentioned. And then I used a collection filter to only see records, census records from 1940. And that changed my results from several thousand to several hundred to 1. And so that's what I'm talking about. Start broad and then use filters to restrict down until you get to a manageable spot. So that's suggestion number 1. And don't worry, when I'm done talking about index records, I'm going to answer some questions. Suggestion number 2 is called wildcard searching. Family Search allows you to do 2 different types of wildcard searching. Now, wildcard is replacing a letter of a name with a symbol, and that will either be a question mark, which we call a one-to-one wildcard search. So if I type in Juarez with a question mark, then it will return any name that starts with Juare and then 1 letter, and it can be any letter of the alphabet. And so, for example, if I know that Juarez is commonly spelled with both a Z and an S, and I want to see both of them, first off, just know that Family Search is aware of this. And so if I just typed in Juarez with a Z, I would still see results with an S. But if I wanted to make sure that it was giving me all sorts of results, I would type in Juarez question mark, just knowing that I get Juarez with a Z, Juarez with an S, but I also could get like Juarez or Juarez with an X, any letter where that question mark is. Our second type of wildcard searching is called one-to-many. So in this case, you can see under the spouse's name, I typed in the first name of Joseph and the last name of M.A. asterisk A. And when I put in that asterisk, I am saying whatever name starts with an M.A. and ends with a name, I want to see. I don't care if there's one letter in between it or 57. And so, for example, when I type in M.A. asterisk A, hoping for Masa, I could get Masa with a Z, Masa with an S. I could also get Makaya or anything else. These asterisk searches can be really helpful when you're searching for uncommon names or commonly misspelled names. For example, my husband's last name is Vasiliev, and you can bet that across his life, people have spelled that a ton of ways. And so whenever I try and do a search for my husband's family, I will type in a V-A asterisk and a V, because I know that middle part of his name is probably going to be spelled a lot of different ways, and I want to see all of them. So especially when you're searching with someone who may have a unique surname or a surname that may have been spelled a variety of ways, use these wildcard searches, because just doing the search for Maria with the one-to-one with the question mark and Joseph with the one-to-many with the asterisk, I get 378 results, which is not bad. And you can see I have Juarez as her last name. If you're searching for someone whose names have diacritics, like accent marks, you don't need to search with them. Family Search will be able to realize that the asterisk marks come and go. But when I was hoping for a Masa, I got a Marquina, a Mayahuaya, and a Mascarena. And so be aware, when you do those sort of more general wildcard searches with the asterisk, it opens you up for a lot of different possibilities of surnames. Now, my other sort of tip for when you're trying to find a family is try doing what I call parent searches. This is great for when you're trying to find all of the children in a specific family. And so in this case, as you can tell when I click search, I left the name field completely blank, which may feel really counterintuitive to you because it's usually the one thing we make sure is filled. But I left it blank. If you want to, you could put in a last name. But I am searching for a person with any name possible, born between 1810 and 1840 to a specific set of parents. And so this is something you can do when you're trying to find all of the children of a specific couple. Blank first name. You can either even leave the birth year range blank as well, or put it in if you want, and then put in the mother's name and the father's name. Wildcard searches work on relatives' names. So in this case, I'm doing Maria Juarez, and I'm doing the question mark to make up for Z's and S's, and then I'm looking for the father, Jose Mata. And if you want to, you can restrict by a location. So in this case, I know the family were living in the state of Guanajuato. Oh my goodness, forgive me, Guanajuato, Mexico. And so I only want to see records coming out of that state. When I click search, I can see I only have 11 results. And when I look closely, I can see they pair into two sort of categories. I have two children born to Juan Jose Mata and Maria Juana Juarez, both of whom were baptized in San Miguel Arcangel in Guanajuato. You can see Maria, her baptism was indexed twice. It's one person, one record, but for whatever reason, it got caught in two different indexing projects, and so there's two versions of that. So be aware, this doesn't mean that there were twins with a first name. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means that this record happened to be indexed not once, but twice. And you can see the same thing happening in this other family group of Jose Obispo Mata and Maria Josefa Juarez, who are having kids in San Luis Rey. You can see that Jose's baptism was indexed twice. And one thing to be aware of as you're looking at Jose, you can see the first record for his baptism That camera icon means that there's an image that you can click and look at right away. And the second one does not have that camera icon. And so if you happen to pull up that second one and try to click to see the image, it might say no image available. And so before you do some of the searching that I'm going to suggest in the future in the catalog or images, make sure to check the rest of the indexed records to see if perhaps the one right above it or right below it is the same record with a quick link to that image. So when we're talking about these indexed historical records, there are some really great qualities to them. They allow you to quickly find your records. They give you a ton of search options, but you do have to rely on the indexes being correctly transcribed. Human error happens. Some of our indexes have been indexed by a computer. Computer error happens. That's why we suggest searching in a lot of ways. And not every single record that we have on Family Search has been indexed. And so while it's a great starting place, it's only just a starting place. And know that if you're searching in these records and you aren't finding anything, there are additional ways you can find records. It might mean that the records that we have simply haven't been indexed yet. Whew. So taking a mental break, are there any questions about index records and finding them on Family Search?
We've actually received a fair number of questions so far.
Okay.
Now, some of them are related to the Family Search tree that you create.
Let's save those for the end.
Okay.
Okay.
I do have one here. One moment. I'm going to bring it up as I say it so we can read it. Norton is wondering if you can search in several countries that a person lived. And I'm wondering if this is related to the filtering thing that you said earlier.
Yes.
You by place.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to find records for several countries, just don't restrict by location. And so, for example, if an ancestor was born in Italy and moved to the United States, instead of restricting it to the United States or to Italy, you can click on birth and put in Italy. And then maybe to even help Family Search remember to look in both places, you can then click residence and put United States, and you will see results from both. Or if you just put his name, his birth date, and click search, it will give you automatically results from all over the world. I like to restrict when I know they only lived in one country to sort of fluff out everything else. But if you know they moved, definitely don't restrict by location because it only allows you to restrict one country at a time. You can't restrict to 2 countries.
Okay. And Gail is wondering what to do if you find information from your search result that has an incorrect spelling or a typo. Are you able to edit it?
I'm going to say we, but really I have no power over this. We as an organization are trying to make all of our indexes editable. Not all of them are yet. So eventually, when you're searching in Family Search and you click on a result and it brings up that full page display, right on the top, there's going to be an edit button. And right now that appears for every record, but it's not clickable for a lot of them. And so if you find something and it's been misspelled or the date's off, click on the record to make it pull up full screen and see if that edit option is available. And if not, the best thing you can really do right now is wait. That's something that's coming but isn't quite here yet.
Okay, and I think that's it for the non-tree questions so far.
Okay, well, good, because we are a fourth of the way through this magical journey through Family Search. So we're going to jump into our next section, which is looking in our historical records. And these are basically what historical records allow you to do is browse the collections that we use in our indexed records. So if you remember in our Walt Disney results page, here's just a couple of his results. The first one comes from a collection, which is called our Find a Grave Index. The other one is coming from a collection of the United States historical newspaper obituaries. So when I say collections, I'm talking about those titles that'll appear under a name. How you get to historical records is under search. You click on records. It is on the exact same part of the website as our indexed records, but as you can see right underneath the search bar, you have two options. First, if you know the name of the collection you're looking for, you can type it into the search box and pull it up. Or if you want to see all available collections for a specific country, or if you're inside of the United States or Mexico, a specific state, you can use search by place. And you can either click Browse Place or click that map to pull up this page. And in this case, I'm going to do another video. We're going to search for all records for Los Angeles County. And so on the map, you can click on United States of America and then scroll down to California. Or if you don't like maps, you can click on that search bar and type in California and click on the search bar. Or if you don't like search bars from our list of all countries everywhere, you can scroll down to the United States, click Show All, and then from our list of states, click California. Because remember, for historical records for the United States, you can only get to the state level. On this landing page, it shows you our wiki, which I'll mention at the end. It will automatically allow you to search the index records with that filter of only showing stuff from California, and then it will show you all of our indexed or partially indexed collections, all of our image-only collections, which will be divided into categories. For example, we have census, military, probate. And then towards the bottom, it'll show us all of our catalog material, which once again, you can view by categories. When you click a specific category, it'll bump you down to that. And so why would we want to do this? Well, if we want to browse large record collections so you can see, this is perfect for you. Also, if you're sort of used to that search records place, it's in the same spot, and it can be really useful to get you quickly to records you need. And so, for example, if we want to find naturalization records, we're back on the historical records page for California, and we scroll down past the indexing because we've searched till the cows come home. We can see here we have a naturalization thing. It was last updated in 2021. And so we can either search by name, or if we've already done a lot of index record searching, we want to browse. We want to see if there's any images here that haven't been indexed. And so it'll usually ask you to choose a locality, like the city of Fresno, and then a section, for example, the year of naturalizations, and it'll pull open our image viewer. You can see this is a collection with multiple images. It automatically brought us to the section 3. It's called item 3. So it brings you exactly where you need to go. You can use the arrows to go page by page by page through this book of naturalization records, or if you want to move quickly, you can delete a number and type in a new one to get right to, in this case, image 200. And I can see here, it looks like this collection has been indexed. As I'm going through the images, I can see each name has been indexed below. And when I click on information, I can see that collection number, and I can even copy a citation if I'm keeping a research log to remind myself where I found this record. You can use that toolbar on the left to zoom in or zoom out, which is really nice. Clicking there will bring you out to see all of the records in different collection if you want to sort of scroll through them to get a good idea for what's where. And then clicking that paper one will bring you right back to where you were at. Once again, you can print or download, and under tools, you can rotate it if you need to. You can adjust the brightness and contrast, or you can invert black and white if perhaps it's written pretty poorly. And so once again, this is for if I wanted to try and find a naturalization record, I've already searched in all of the index records, it's not coming out. I can go to historical records. I can look through the list of different record collections available for California until I find the naturalization ones, and then I can click browse to see if there's any records from this collection that perhaps haven't been indexed yet or have been indexed so badly I haven't been able to find them. But then I do have to go image by image by image by image until I find it. So the great part about historical records is it is located in the same part of the website as index records. And you can see which collections have been indexed, especially with the date when they were last indexed. You can see, oh, this collection was last updated like 5 years ago, or in the case of the naturalization records last year. The old ones are probably done. We're not adding to them. One that was last updated last week is probably, they're still in process and more records are going to come. And then once you're in that digital collection, you can quickly go to a specific year or a specific place. A hard part of historical records, which is why the reason why I rarely use it personally, is from the get-go, it's difficult to know which cities are included in a specific collection. It's difficult to know what parts of the collection have been indexed, and it doesn't include all of the digital records we have on Family Search. So I really only recommend using historical records if you're already pretty familiar with a collection and you want to just go to it really quickly. We have other ways of getting to images on Family Search that I'm about to talk about that are a lot easier for you to see exactly what records are available and if they've been indexed and all of that good stuff. Any questions about historical records? I know this is sort of a shorter part of the class.
Let me bring up one here.
Yeah.
Okay, John is wondering about specific records, real estate records.
Oh, hang on for just like 2 minutes. I'm going to show you how you can find specific records.
Okay, all right. And then Anne was saying that with one of the searches that you ran, some of the documents were ones you had to pay for, but I didn't think you guys had any pay.
No, so Family Search does partnerships. For example, we partner with Ancestry, we partner with Find My Past, we partner with Find a Grave, we partner with Genealogy. I think the one she might have been doing is when I did the search for Walt Disney, it showed us a lot of obituaries from a website called Genealogy Bank. And while you can see the index for free on Family Search, when you click the View Image button, you'll get a pop-up notification saying this image is on a different website, a partner website, and they may have pricing in order to see the original records. So as long as you stay on Family Search, everything is free, but some of our indexes do come from different websites we've partnered with, and some of those do require you to either have a subscription or to pay for copies of the images of those records. So that's a really good point. It's something I didn't mention.
And I think we got a couple other tree questions, but we'll wait on those.
Man, the tree is popular. I feel bad that I didn't include it. But yeah, that'd be a whole other hour. Okay, stay with me. Be excited about records. The tree is great. Records are great too, though. So, for anyone that loves using the Family Search app, from this part of the presentation onwards, you can't use it. These options aren't available. So if you're used to using the app, just know that if you want to search in the catalog or in images, you are going to have to close your app, open a browser window on your phone or your tablet, go to familysearch.org, and do these types of searches. Because we are going to talk about the catalog, which for years and years and years has been the holy grail of finding images on Family Search, and it's still pretty great. Images is its younger sibling that is swiftly sort of trying to catch up and show it up, and we're going to talk about that one next. So how you get to catalogs is under the search bar. When you click on search and see the drop-down menu, the fifth option is catalog. And on the catalog, it'll automatically recommend you search by place, but it does allow you to do other searches, such as surnames, titles, authors, subjects, keywords. And then if you know, for example, a specific call number for a book or a film number, for example, if you are in the library here at Family Search, we have hundreds of books and millions of rolls of microfilm. And if you happen to know which one of those you want to look for, you can search by that to make sure you know exactly where to go in the library or if it's been digitized to view the digital copy online. Now, one caveat, if you click on surnames and type in a name, surnames corresponds to sort of published books. So for example, a book that's like The Descendants of Maria Bell, whoever wrote that book will probably have a list of surnames in the back, and whoever our cataloger will put Maria Bell's surname on it and maybe sort of some key surnames that appear in that book. It will not, if you type in surnames, it's not going to give you a list of birth records like on index records. It'll pull you more towards these sort of published biographies and stuff like that. And titles will give you both collection titles and book titles. And then my favorite search other than place is keyword. For example, for real estate records, that is how you would find if we have any on Family Search, is using a keyword search. I'm going to show an example in about 2 seconds of using the funeral keyword search to find funeral records. For my real estate person, you can substitute real estate for that and sort of get the same type of results. So on the catalog, I don't know why that one's black. I want to find funeral home records for Los Angeles City. When I type in Los Angeles, you can see I have a ton of results from all over the world. I can scroll through them until I find the city of Los Angeles, or I can just sort of keep typing. I can put in California, and that gives me the county of Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles, and the city of West Los Angeles. And I want the city, so I click on it. You always have to click on the green and then click search. And now I can see for the city of Los Angeles all the different types of records we have, and then parentheses how many of them. So for example, under church records, you can see we have 34 collections. And if I click on that line, I can see we have church records from the Church of Jesus Christ, from the Catholic Church, from the Presbyterians, but I want funeral home records. So I click on that, and I can see that we have 6 collections. And if I want to see what's inside a specific collection, I click on the title there, and it opens up the information for this specific thing, funeral records from 1898 to 1991. I can read notes about it, and then as I scroll down, this is the most important thing, I can see all of the individual parts of this collection. Now, one thing that's important is our catalog splits large collections into pages. So if you're on page 1 and don't see anything, look for that page number and see if you have to go through page 2, page 3 to see everything that you need. And then when you find from this list what you need, you'll see these icons. So the first and most exciting one is the magnifying glass icon, which means at least one name from this collection has been indexed. It doesn't mean the whole thing is indexed, just at least one name. The camera is the second most exciting icon because it means it's digitized and you can view it from your home. That little microfilm reel means for now it's only available to view on microfilm. That's usually for records that contain sensitive information, such as records for people that might be alive. And then the camera with the key on top of it means that there's some sort of restriction on it. And usually if you click on that, it'll tell you what the restriction is. Another important thing is here under film number, it's telling you in this film, this collection of funeral record indexes only goes from items 4 to 6. When I click on this camera with the key on it, it tells me you have to sign in. So I sign in, and then I can see it. Remember how I said sometimes just signing in will get you into the records, other times you'll have to go to a family search center or to one of your public libraries to get into it. So you can see I have to go to a different item. Items are sort of like chapters. I just passed where 1 ended and 2 began. As I keep scrolling down, I can see the end of 2 and start of 3. When you get to the item you want, you can double click on the first record, which will usually be the cover of a book, and then use the arrows to go image by image by image through this collection until you find what you need. Now I can see if I change my mind and want to go to a different section, I can use that to zoom in and zoom out on my collection. I can once again attach to my tree, print it, download it, use the tools to change the brightness or contrast. On the bottom, there's no index available, so the only way to find records is page by page. And under my information, I can see stuff from the catalog and that this one doesn't have a citation, so I'd have to make it myself. And so this, once again, the catalog has been sort of the bread and butter of getting to digital records for a lot of years. And the most common way to search it is by searching for a place, seeing what records are available, and then opening through them and going image by image by image through a gear range and a type of record range that we want until you find the records that you need. Now, there are also, you can find some wonderful records by doing what we call a keyword search. So let's say I still want to find records in Los Angeles, California, and I want the city. And I'm tired of scrolling, so I'm just going to start typing in California. I'm going to skip past Los Angeles County and go to the city, Los Angeles, not West Los Angeles. I think this actually bopped me back to my last video. It totally did. My apologies. Okay, we already watched that. So yes, so just suggestions for the catalog is that place search will allow you to see all digital records in a specific jurisdiction. This is important because it will let you see things that may be restricted. So at least you can know that those records are available, even if you may have to, for example, go to a center or sign in to a family search account to get them. Always pay attention to those item numbers. If something starts on item 1 and you open up the microfilm, then you can start right on item 1. It's going to be on image 1. If something starts on item 5, you're going to have to open up that collection of images and scroll down until you see the start of item 5. Now we're going to talk about the keyword search. This is the video I thought I was playing. So let's see, I want to find funeral records, and I don't want to do a place search. I just want to try and find any collection that has Los Angeles funeral records listed as a keyword. So here I'm going to put Los Angeles and then funeral. I click search. So one thing I can see, there's 58 results. That purple one is the one I've already looked at. Blue means I haven't looked at it. And when I search just by a keyword, I lose my categories. I just see the list of records, but then when I choose one, I can quickly scroll down, look at my icons. If something has been indexed, I can click on that magnifying glass and it'll pull up the index, and I can even search inside that index, which is really nice. But if I've searched that and nothing's popped up, I can still click the camera icon to go image by image by image. Another thing you can do is combine a place search with a keyword search. So if I'm going to search in the city of Los Angeles for funeral records, I can actually type in my place and then type in my keyword and click search. And I can find that even though I have that category of funeral home records, funeral records also show up, for example, in this minorities record that contains records for Jewish people, or in this thing that it's calling a vital record, which are death records, but because they're coming from a mortuary, it's been given the keyword. Now, another important thing that I wanted to show you, I'm going to back up a second, is each collection has that section there where it says part of and places within. Now I started you on a city to see all of the records that were available for a specific city. And then it said that Los Angeles City is part of Los Angeles County. So I clicked on the county, and then I can see all of these lists of available records for the county. If you've done a keyword search, the moment you use part of or places within, the keyword disappears, and it just shows you everything available for that locality. And my video is struggling today. I'm sorry about that. Let's skip you forward. Okay, and so there in Los Angeles County, I can also, just gonna give it a second to speed up. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so we're in Los Angeles City. I'm about to click on where it says Los Angeles is part of the County of Los Angeles. There you can see the click. And now I can see all available records on the county level, which in my never-ending quest for funeral records does include 2 collections of funeral homes I can look through. And then I can use places within to go to a different city and see what's available, or to go back to the lovely city of Los Angeles and see all of the records that are available there. So when you're on the catalog, remember you can do a plain place search. You can also combine it with a keyword search, or do just a keyword search to find specific types of records like real estate records. But then also always use the places within or the part of to make sure that you're checking different jurisdictional levels, because perhaps the record you need was created at the county level, not the city level, or at the state level. And you can use places within or part of to make sure you get every single one of those jurisdictions and check them for the records you need. So when we're talking about the catalog, what's really great about it is that it gives you access to almost all of our digital record collections, and you can see exactly what is on Family Search for specific locations, even if perhaps there is a restriction. And then there's icons to tell you if the collection has been indexed or if there is a restriction. The difficult part of the catalog is that it can be tricky to learn to use. and records can be found at the city, state, or county jurisdiction. And then the other recently difficult part about the catalog is it doesn't include any records that have been digitized since about mid-2011, and it never will. So the further we go along in time, the more antiquated the catalog will become. And so that's just something important to be aware of, is that it's sort of become frozen in time. We can't update it anymore. And so while it's great, and if you're used to using it, keep using it. But if you're searching it and you aren't finding any records, then maybe do a search on images before giving up. And I'm going to talk about images in a second. But first, are there any questions about the catalog?
Well, let's see. We've got a really good one here.
Do I have the 1950 census? Ha ha ha. Sort of. Family Search is partnering with Ancestry to make accessible the 1950 census. So for example, if you go to Family Search and click on Get Involved, you can start indexing it. We're working to make it available in images, and it should be coming very, very soon. It might not be up yet, but it should be coming probably within a week. And you should be able to get to it through images and also through historical records.
And this may or may not really be related to the catalog, but related to record sets that you have.
Yes, you can see actual birth, death certificates, and deeds. So like, for example, in my example, I took us and looked us through an actual book of funerary records. If instead of funeral homes, I had clicked on vital records, I would have seen collections of birth records or death records. And when I clicked on that little camera icon, I could look at those exact records and look through that whole collection, which is really cool.
I think that's it for now.
Okay, we're in the home stretch. So I mentioned images being the younger sibling that is quickly catching up to catalog. And images is basically our solution to the catalog not being able to hold our newly digitized records. You find images under search. It's the second option, and it functions very similarly to the catalog. It looks a little different, but if you're used to the catalog, you will find images to be pretty similar. So right in the middle, you can get this cool little tick, the ticking amount of images that we have there, which is over 4 billion. It's probably over 6 now because this screenshot is 2 weeks old. And it will prompt you to do a place search. In fact, when you first do it, it seems that that's the only type of search you can do. But if you click on show more options, you can add in a place and or a date and choose from a drop down of different life events. And if you click show advanced search, you can also search for a specific record type. You can search for a DGS number, which you can find right next to film numbers in our catalog. You can also search by creator, which is the author, or there's our favorite keyword search on the very bottom. And remember, the search is just like the catalog, so I'm going to show you the same search that we did on the catalog. So for example, in my place search, I'm going to type in Los Angeles. I'm going to see all of the possible results. There's a lot, so I can either scroll to the city, or I can type in either the county or the state and go to my wonderful city of Los Angeles. And when I click search, remember on the catalog, it had them broken into different categories. On images, it just shows you all of our 7,000 records that we have. And you can go page by page through them. The nice thing about images is it does show you our image count, but if this seems overwhelming, all of those categories are still there on the left under life events. And they're sort of in big categories and sub-counties. So about my funeral records, I can click on death and then show all. Right now, it's already filtered it to just show death records, but I can say not just death records. I want you to only show these 2 types of funeral records. And when I click update, I go from 7,000 results to 470 results, which is fantastic. And then one thing that Images has that Catalog doesn't have is I can filter by year. So I can say I only want funeral records that include the year 1912, and that brings it down to 13 results, which is very, very manageable. And when I click on one of them, it will open up the image viewer. Or if I want to try, well, let's try places within, it's on the left, not on the top. So I can click on the county of Los Angeles, and in Images, it keeps my it keeps, not my keyword, my locality filter and my date filter. So I'm still only seeing funeral records, and under places within, I can go back to the city and still only see funeral records, only that include the year 1912. So a lot of our filtering on Images is a lot more advanced than the catalog. When you open up an image, once again, it looks very similar to the catalog. It bops you right to the correct image number if that applies, which is fantastic. Once again, you double click on an image to open it up. You can use the arrows on the top to go image by image. You can also change that number by deleting it and typing in a new one. That information that's usually on the bottom is on the side. You can minimize it. You can still view the whole collection or go back to the main page. The only weird thing is download is at the bottom of that tools icon instead of being at the top of the screen under attached to family tree. If you want to download an image, remember it'll be on that left side menu. Now, let's talk about keyword searches. You can still do them independently or combined with a place search. Just remember you have to click show more options and then show advanced search. So under keyword, if I type in Los Angeles funeral, part of Images expanded functions is it actually is able to show any sort of record that includes the word Los Angeles in it. And so just by doing a pure keyword search, if I'm looking for a specific place, I get 40,000 results, most of which are from places in Latin America that have something to do with either a parish called Los Angeles or perhaps a saint. And so if you want to do a keyword search on Images for a specific place, it's better to put in the keyword and then still under place, type in the place you want. And so there I'm looking for the city of Los Angeles, still with the keyword of funeral, and I get 346 results there. And I can still filter by date or do whatever else I want. If you don't like changing your search on that sidebar, you can just do it from the main bar, searching by the place on the main page and then show more, show advanced funeral. You can also do a date search right from the very beginning or restrict to a life event right from the very beginning. And so Images is really nice in that it gives you a lot of filtering options to see images. It gives you a lot of information about it. But in order to see whether or not a collection's been indexed, you have to scroll all the way to the far right to indexing status. If it's blank, it means it has not. If you don't see indexing status, right above it, click show, where you can sort of specify which information you want to find and make sure indexing status is checked. You can also say if you don't care, for example, about archival reference numbers, you can uncheck that and that goes away. So you have a lot more control over your results page in Images as well. So what makes Image great is that you have access to all available digital records with a massive asterisk that I will address in the next slide. You can see exactly what's available for specific locations, and you can filter by date and by record types. It is tricky to use. You still have to deal with the different jurisdictional things that you have issues with on the catalog. It is more difficult to distinguish between record types, or for example, if you're looking for a place with sort of multiple districts of birth records or multiple churches of church records, it's difficult to see which collection is coming from which church. And then the most difficult part of the catalog is you can only see results whose restrictions apply to you. And so, for example, if there's a collection that you love and you use, but it's been restricted to only be available in a center for family search, you won't even see that show up as an option under Images, while in Catalog, if you search for it, it would show up with an option, but it would have that key, and when you click on it, it would tell you to go for a center. So just be aware while you're doing searches in Images There may be records that are available to you on the website, but the restrictions are excluding you from seeing them. And then if you want to see if a collection has been indexed, sometimes you have to change that setting. So, questions about images. I'm going to take a massive drink of water.
1 minute, my computer kind of died for a second.
Oh
no! You know, if something didn't go wrong, I
no!
would think, okay, let me see here. Anne is asking, what does it mean when it says draft records?
So draft records are a record type that you can filter by. So for example, in the United States, during different times of war, we have had mandatory drafts where young men have had to, both mandatory and voluntary, fill out draft records. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can use that filter to see draft records for a specific locality and see the information that so far young men, some young women who have joined the armed services have filled out when they were drafted. And you can look through those actual records image by image by image to learn about them.
And this is a good point. Bill was wondering if you could repeat what you were talking about with the catalog.
Yes. The catalog stopped being updated halfway through 2011, and it will not be updated again. And so any images that are added to Family Search, because we're out there digitizing hundreds of images each day, will not show up in the catalog anymore. Starting about mid-2011 into the future, the only way to see those images will be on Family Search and Images. That's a software problem from the software that Catalog was built on that is outside of our control. It's the reason why Images exists now as a search option.
Oh, thanks, that makes a lot of sense. I was
Yeah,
wondering why they'd stopped, why you said they were stopping doing the catalog, because I love the catalog.
yeah, everyone loves the catalog. It's just the software it was built on it no longer functions well.
Then also Anne, who just asked the questions about draft records, she wasn't talking about draft records like the military. She said draft isn't a draft of something, like maybe it's not been inputted yet. I'm not sure I know what that question might mean. Do you, Lauren?
I'm not sure.
I don't think we'd see anything that's just a draft as far as a record, right? It's already, it's there or it's not.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, and if you have other information, just write it some more in the chat box and we'll get to it. And then again, we've got some tree questions, so I'm
gonna address those in like 1 second. I have two other things I want to talk about, which is just the other resources under searches. So when you click on search, there's three options that I didn't talk about. The first are genealogies, which are sort of we call them read-only genealogies. They're read-only family trees. Some of them are ones that have been submitted by users. Some of them have been created by Family Search. We have a huge project going on right now in different countries in Africa where we're recording oral histories of the people that live there and then turning those into family trees, which are available to search on genealogies. We also have massive amounts of family trees created from, for example, Jiapu records for various parts of Asia. And so it can just be a really great resource to see basically trees that have been submitted either by users or by Family Search itself that aren't necessarily tied to records. Under books, you can find thousands of digital books that have to do with genealogy. Some are family history, some are more methodology. You can search by keyword or title. And the wiki is something that I really wish I had space to talk about more, but when I was making this presentation, I just knew there wasn't time. But the Research Wiki is a wonderful resource where you can search for a locality or search about a type of record just to learn all about it, about how to access it, about where to go, not just on Family Search, but on any website that there is in the world, or how to even do archival research. It's a wonderful guide for teaching you how to do genealogy. Okay, that's the end of my slides. I know the tree people have been waiting very, very patiently. So with the time that remains.
Okay, let me bring up the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So Ginger was looking at finding information on a tree, but wanted to know, where can you find sources that prove what the person's saying?
1 second, let me queue up family search.
Okay.
And I'm going to stop sharing.
This is a good question, because I think I don't know the answer either.
It is a wonderful, wonderful question. Okay. I'm in a conference room, and so my second screen is this big TV on the wall. So, okay. Perfect. So familysearch.org, if I am on the tree, and I want to see the, for example, the records for my grandfather. You click on their name, and then this is their person page. You may be routed to our sort of new pretty version of the person page, which would look like this. If you go there, the sources are going to be down at the bottom here where it says sources 15, and you can click view all, or back on the older version of the page, it'll be here on the top where it says sources 15. If whoever put in the source tagged it to a specific life event, it'll show up here. So for example, for burial, 2 sources were tagged as burial, which were both his find a grave index. If I go to actual sources, 21, I think his actual death record is in here somewhere. Yeah, here under sources, and his social security death index, it just hasn't been tagged. So if you're on the person page and you're seeing 0 sources here next to an event, make sure you go to sources and look through them, because it may be that someone's found the source and put it in, but just hasn't tagged it. If there's information and there's nothing under sources, here under latest changes, you can see anyone that's added information to the tree, and you can scroll through until you can see the person who made that change, and you can actually send them a message and ask them where it came from. Does that answer your question?
I'm sorry, I was talking while muted.
It's okay.
Okay, so people can add events to the family search tree, but they don't necessarily have to put a source in. And
Oh yeah.
uh-huh.
The family search tree, so what makes it different from any other website for those who are not aware is family search is a collaborative tree. While on other genealogical platforms, everyone was working on their own tree that no one else can edit. The family tree is an open source tree, which can be great because people who don't know a lot can suddenly connect into work that perhaps their cousin has done and find generations of their family, and they love it and they can work together. But the downside of that is that people can just add information and you might not have a clue where that's coming from. And so you got to ask them.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Anne is wondering if records will show up automatically when you add a person to your tree, or is it a good idea to still search for your data?
It is still a good idea to still search for your data. Let's sort of remember how when I was talking about searching, I'm going to pretend everyone says, yes, I remember this because you're a brilliant presenter, that I started with start broad and then go narrow. When Family Search runs searches, you can see it has 2 suggestions there. It runs a search for Edgar Odell Wake, born this exact day in this exact place, Baptized exactly in this way. It's death, this, married to married to both his first wife and to my grandmother, and with these kids. It does really specific searches, and sometimes it's so specific it blocks out records that are valid to him. And so it's always a good idea to run searches on your own, just because our system doesn't always run the most efficient searches, because it wants to make sure it only suggests things that it is sure belong to him. While when you run a search on your own, specifically one that may just have like a name, a birth date, and a place, it's more up to you to decide, is this my person? And then bring in that information.
And Natalie is asking if you can add an unindexed record to a tree page.
Yes, you can. So sometimes I just blank on places. If I wanted to add this baptism record, which I am choosing completely at random, to my tree, this one, and I have a tree on family search, I do it clicking attach to family tree here. It'll sort of put in a title that it thinks it did. I usually change it to be relevant. So I'd say like baptism of whomever this is, of John Smith. And then when I click next, select record, it'll go through a drop down and show all of the people you've seen recently. If it doesn't show there, you can enter in their ID, which is that little number that's always underneath their name, anyone in their tree. And it'll attach it will give you the option to attach it to other people. You click next to verify and attach. I'm obviously not going to attach a random Spanish baptism to my grandfather, but you can imagine those next steps. If your tree is elsewhere, you can attach it through using the URL or through downloading it and then re-uploading it.
And I think we've got one more. A lot of the tree questions were kind of similar. I think you just covered it.
Good.
Norton asked if one of the partners Family Search is with Jeannie.
We do. Okay. We share records with them. Some, not all. And like really for partner, when Family Search says partner, it just means like at some point we work together to share some things. So it has sort of different interpretations for different people.
I think that is just about it, but I wanted to bring up a couple of the comments because it looks like you are very popular.
Thank you.
And have done a wonderful job, which I can say absolutely you have.
Oh my goodness, I feel so loved.
I just want to bring up some of the comments because
it's a lovely way to end.
Well, thanks so much, Lauren. And my goodness, I was just going to say, you can do so much on the website now with FamilySearch.org. I used to have to request microfilm be sent to a location near me, then I'd go there and look at the microfilm. And now so much is available on your website, but not everything. And so another great use for your website is to prepare yourself for a trip to Salt Lake City. And that's exactly what I did when I went last month. I had a whole list of things I could not find on your website and I had to do in person. And the website guided me very well.
We love it when people come to the library. So if you can make it, please come see our resources. I didn't mention a lot of them in depth, but we have 2 entire book floors. We have, millions of microfilms, some of which are digitized, some haven't. And we do also have, expert staff, which for a lot of people is the reason they come, is to get a second opinion or some guidance. This morning, I helped a lady from Panama and a lady with Italian ancestry and a lady with Mexican ancestry. You just sort of get some next steps on their family tree. And it's a wonderful place to sort of come and feast on genealogical goodness.
I agree 100%. Well, thank you for spending your weekend with us, and thanks all of you for watching. And Lauren, I hope we can maybe have you come back again. You were so great.
Oh, I would love to.
I'll contact you in about a year.
Awesome.
All right. Well, have a nice rest of the weekend, and goodbye, everybody. Join us next month for German genealogy. Bye.